Los Angeles, 6-month-old Paul McKee of Ipswich becomes the youngest person in the world to have a liver transplant. And in sporting news, Australia's Olympic swimming squad has warm-up trials against American clubs in preparation for this month's Olympic Games. Good morning and welcome to 11 a.m. I'm Vincent Smith. Those stories and more shortly. We'll also be reporting on the opening day of the Federal ALP conference in Canberra. A scientific report on French tests at Mururoa Atoll in the Pacific concludes that there's no leakage of radioactive material from the test site. And by satellite, highlights of John McEnroe's victory in the Wimbledon series. But first, the news. Here's Ross Simons.
Thanks, Vincent. Good morning. Labor's national conference in Canberra has opened with a plea for party unity by Federal President Neville Wran. His opening address was delayed by a dispute on accreditation of some delegates. Outside the Lakeside Hotel, demonstrators are braving chilly weather and drizzle to voice their opposition to uranium mining and the ALP's acceptance of the Indonesian incorporation of East Timor. Anti-uranium protesters have set up camp on the lawns opposite the conference venue. We'll have a report on the conference shortly from Ken Begg. After 9 hours of surgery involving a 14-member medical team, 6-month-old Paul McKee of Ipswich in Queensland today became the youngest person in the world to undergo a liver transplant. Doctors believe the operation, which is still underway in Los Angeles, has gone well, despite a series of setbacks for Paul at the hospital. Investigators in Vermont are today searching the wreckage of an Amtrak passenger train which derailed at the weekend, killing 5 people and injuring more than 100 others. The derailment has again raised the question of train safety in the United States.
Late yesterday afternoon, rescuers brought in a crane to lift 2 of the Amtrak coaches that had covered a third, a sleeping car, where the worst casualties took place. In the process, 2 more bodies were found, bringing the death toll to 5. There were some in that car alive who remembered the bump and their car rolling over and over into the ravine.
When we stopped rolling, it was a real good situation because you looked at yourself and you were still alive, which was amazing.
There were also some ironies.
We were talking about the night before about how safe trains are, basically, that even when there is a train derailment, people don't die. I guess this proved them a little bit wrong.
The track and road bed does not belong to Amtrak here or anywhere else. It belongs to and is maintained by whatever line Amtrak uses, in this case, Central of Vermont Railway. Today, investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board were looking at the site and noted that the culvert that gave way was a century old. True, the track had been inspected the night before the accident, but there were torrential rains that night during and after that inspection.
They could call out a special track inspection in the event of water. So what we're going to look at is whether the conditions would or should have called for a special inspection.
The Safety Board's inspection is a very involved procedure, and it may be weeks or even months before its report is ready. But the Central Vermont Railroad is wasting no time in getting its trackage back in working order. More cranes were hauling away wreckage today. Pipe for a new culvert was being laid. And by late tonight, there will be a new track, new culvert, ready for the trains again.
A British Caledonian jumbo jet held for 2 days by Nigerian officials in Lagos has arrived safely back in London. The aircraft was grounded by Nigeria in a tit-for-tat response to the holding of one of their aircraft in Britain. All 232 passengers aboard the British jumbo are safe and well.
The airliner finally arrived in London at 4:07 this morning. That's nearly 2 days late and 14 hours after the Nigerian's plane had left Stansted. On board were 30 of the Britons who'd been held in Lagos since being recalled early on Friday morning. They'd spent 2 days stranded in Lagos, held for several hours in a government guest house, virtual hostages in a diplomatic crisis they knew very little about. How were you treated while you were being detained?
No problems at all.
Did they make any provision for the children at all?
After about 12 hours.
Well, they just dumped us at the airport, and after that they just left without any sufficient reason given to us.
Well, you have to put up with a certain amount of harassment in Nigeria.
3 new passages between Christian East and Muslim West Beirut were opened today, but Muslim protesters promptly closed them. They were protesting against the lack of action by the new Lebanese government to free the more than 3,000 people kidnapped during 9 years of civil war.
For the third straight day, demonstrators demanding the release of prisoners of war blocked crossing points between Christian East and Muslim West Beirut, threatening the government's latest plan to reunite the divided city. Early this morning, soldiers opened 3 more crossings along the Green Line, roads that had been closed for 5 months. But less than an hour later, women whose relatives disappeared during the 9-year war barricaded the crossings with branches, boulders, mounds of dirt, and tires. People who tried to go around the roadblocks were dealt with harshly. This young woman barely escaped. These are the first pictures ever taken of prisoners, Christian fighters being held by a Muslim militia. The prisoner of war issue is the most sensitive problem facing the new government. This alone has killed several peace efforts and jeopardizes this plan as well, even if a promised exchange takes place soon. More than 3,000 people are missing, but the militias only have about 200 prisoners. While many believe the others are dead, the demonstrators warn they will block all steps to reunite the city until all of the missing people are returned.
No airport open tomorrow. We want to close all the road until they return. We want 3,000.
The government's faced with a difficult decision. If the demands are ignored, violence could erupt and destroy the peace plan. Yet the same could happen if the prisoners are released and many people here learn their loved ones are dead. The demonstration gained momentum by the unexpected release of a man held by the army. Instantly, he became a living symbol of their fight, and for the first time in years, gave many people hope their loved ones, too, would soon return.
The British coal miners' strike over plans to close pits continues, but for one day, striking miners left their pickets to attend a picnic. Thousands of miners and their families went to the fair, organised by union leaders.
The picnic in Nottingham attracted 2,500 people, with buses bringing in miners' families. There were no speeches, just a jolly festive day out in the sun, a carnival atmosphere. Even the kebabs have been donated from a Turkish workers' group. As for the Nottinghamshire striking miners, it was the morale booster they had so desperately wanted.
Well, we want to pay tribute to those who are not working, those who realise that the fight for jobs is a very important thing. Anyone who gives up 17 or 18 weeks' wages in order to fight for jobs deserves a tribute. That's the very thing that Trades Council wanted to do. It's been a great success. We hope it gives them some encouragement to fight on for the jobs issue.
Hundreds of music fans have rioted in Ireland on the eve of a concert by the leader of the 60s peace movement, Bob Dylan. Fans set fire to cars and stoned police during a rampage through the village of Slane, about 50 kilometres north of Dublin. 18 people, including 3 policemen, were injured during the riots, which started after some fans were refused drinks in a village pub. Youths smashed shop windows, set 3 cars alight and hurled beer bottles and stones at the local police station. 200 police reinforcements and the Irish Army anti-riot unit were called in to control the demonstrators. A baton charge by police led to the injuries, none of which was serious. More than 40,000 Dylan fans are expected to attend the open-air concert tonight. John McEnroe scored his 3rd and most decisive Wimbledon victory with a straight sets win over his longtime rival, Jimmy Connors. McEnroe served superbly to demolish Connors in just 80 minutes, 6-1, 6-1, 6-2. There was good news for Australia too on Wimbledon's final day, with Mark Kratzmann winning the junior title and Wendy Turnbull scoring a win with John Lloyd in the mixed doubles. We'll have a full report from our European correspondent Paul White later in 11 a.m. That's the latest news for the moment. Now we look at our national weather, and it's good morning to Mike Bailey.
Thanks, Ross. Good morning. And if we had the sort of budget that gave us a 36-piece orchestra, they'd be striking up with at least a drum roll at the moment, because we can welcome back for the first time in almost 2 months on 11 a.m. a satellite photograph. Yes, this morning's picture shows some cloud across the central parts of the continent, and that's moved fairly rapidly across into New South Wales, even in the few hours since the photograph was taken. The reason, there's a very active jet stream at the moment, blowing quite gustily along at the upper latitudes, and Sydney quite cloudy already, and that goes for much of New South Wales. There's some high and middle level cloud with this, and some rain falling in Sydney at the moment, but mainly fine in our other centres, with the exception, of course, of well down south with that cold front moving through. There's some quite cold air behind it, chance of more snowfalls over the southern Alps in the next couple of days, and very strong winds as well. Strong wind warnings are out this morning for all South Australian coastal waters and around to Melbourne as well, for Port Phillip Bay and Western Port, for strong west to southwesterly winds gradually freshening in the next 24 hours, and ahead of the front, of course, a strengthening northwesterly stream, and that will affect New South Wales today. These cold fronts will move fairly rapidly through and cross to the eastern coast in the next 24 hours. Behind it, mainly fine weather for areas west of, or rather east of the ranges in New South Wales, so Sydney will be back to mostly fine by tomorrow, but of course on the other side of the ranges, including the southern capitals, some showers to persist, and the chance too of some falls of hail today around Adelaide. Forecast in detail for our viewing centres. First for Adelaide, a cold showery day with possible hail and strong northwest to southwesterly winds. The temperature will peak around 13 degrees. In Brisbane, a much brighter picture, fine and mild, fairly sunny there, though some cloud patches at times, light to moderate northwesterly winds and temperatures to 24 degrees. In the national capital, a rather cold and cloudy day, some showers, falling as snow about the upper peaks of the Snowy Mountains further south, and freshening northwesterly winds getting around to the west and southwest during the next 24 hours, a top of 10 degrees. Finally for Melbourne, cold, cloudy with a few showers, strong north to northwesterly winds, 13 degrees, and of course Sydney, where it's continuing to rain at times, cool and cloudy, freshening northwest to westerly winds, again turning around to the southwest in the next 24 hours, 17 degrees at best today, 8 the top for the mountains. That's the weather. Here's Vincent.
Okay, thanks, Michael. We'll be back with more of 11 a.m. after this break.
Good morning, and today's Channel 7 Midday Movie features Elizabeth Taylor and Lawrence Harvey in the controversial drama Butterfield 8, for which Elizabeth won a well-deserved Oscar. Plus, Harrison Ford, I'll be telling you how you can win a trip for 2 to the United States and tickets for Reuben Reuben. So, see you right after 11 a.m. here on 7.
Honey and hot toast.
Honey and lamb roast.
Honey at coffee time. Capilano honey makes the difference every time. Creamed honey pancakes.
Honey prawns, for goodness sake.
Honey glazed vegetables. Capilano honey makes the difference every time.
When you choose honey, make sure you choose Capilano honey. It makes the difference every time.
Capilano honey makes the difference every time.
Here's your vitamins, sweetheart.
Oh, thanks. Where?
There.
That's fruit juice. Where's my capsule?
Forget the capsule, darling. Your vitamins are in there. In fact, 5 vitamins with the juices of 10 fruits.
Really? Ah, Vi-10.
Go on. You'll love it.
New Vi-10. The good health of 5 essential vitamins with the added natural goodness of 10 carefully selected fruits.
Delicious. If that's my vitamins, you can give it to me every day.
Hey, look what Arnott's got for you now. Arnott's Aussie Sports Biscuits. With all your favourite Aussie sports printed on the biscuits. There are skiers and surfers, high divers, footballers. Oh, printer of caramel colour on the biscuits. There are yachtsmen and gymnasts and cricketers. Why don't you try them? They taste great. Arnott's Aussie Sports. Good biscuits.
Who's the one when it comes to lunching? Homemade bread with crust a-crunching. Hurry, Mum, I've got to play now. Slow down, son, you've got all day now. Ooh, you ought to be congratulated. Merrily, we'd like to state it. You, it's true. You ought to be congratulated.
Now back to the liver transplant operation now underway in Los Angeles of 6-month-old Paul McKee of Ipswich in Queensland. We've just received this satellite report from Greg Hoy.
Doctors say Paul McKee would only have lived 3 days longer if a liver donor had not been found. In fact, up to 7 potential donors had previously been found for Paul, but in each case the children's parents refused to allow the transplant to go ahead. But last night came a change to Paul's incredible run of bad luck. Chief transplant surgeon Dr. Ron Busatil flew to Las Vegas to collect a donated liver, that of an unidentified child who died yesterday. By 7:30 this morning, Dr. Busatil was back in Los Angeles and Paul was rushed into the operating theatre. Gary and Lucia McKee, Paul's parents, had been at the hospital most of the night. Together with a small group of friends, they began their long wait. Hospital staff warned that Paul's chances of survival were slim. For those waiting, the hours, of course, passed slowly.
Dies like this. It's like itch, I
But then LH doesn't fit here.
There's still been no official explanation by the hospital of reports that the machine that had for 9 weeks intravenously fed Paul a life-supporting nutrient was mistakenly turned off 2 nights ago. Alleged witnesses also claim that when the machine was restarted, it was connected to the wrong nutrient container. Paul apparently went into a coma as a result. Until last night, doctors were unsure as to whether he could stand up to the operation. But with little time left, this was obviously Paul's last chance. The operation has now been underway for a little over 8.5 hours. Doctors will only say that it's going according to schedule and that a result won't be available for some time yet. In Los Angeles, Greg Hoy reporting.
All we can do is hope that all goes well. The International Monetary Fund says it won't be making any further loans to Argentina until that country makes serious attempts to cut its annual inflation rate, which is now running at an unbelievable 560%. Argentina owes more than $45,000 million to foreign banks and governments and is only the 3rd largest debtor in Latin America. Nicaragua, too, is having troubles with Washington. President Reagan is supporting the activities of counter-revolutionaries. Hit-and-run raids on key economic targets have had devastating effects on Nicaragua's failing economy and have seen the rise of its biggest industry, the black market.
Managua's notorious Oriental market looks like any other busy marketplace, except that here you can buy what you can't find anywhere else in the capital anymore. Stalls full of toothpaste, toilet paper, and other scarce toilet articles. Just about everything one could want, but for a price. This is the home of the black market, where salesmen flaunt their illegally acquired wares at up to 10 times the legal price. It's a sign of the times in post-revolutionary Nicaragua, a time of acute economic crisis. 60 Cordobas for this bit of corn, 30 for that. In all, 200 Cordobas, and I can't even begin to fit my kids. Not on my wages, they are rubbish. Like Maria Gonzalez, most people don't shop here out of choice, but out of necessity. Still, as shortages of almost every consumer item become chronic, the black market is flourishing. The alternative is here at the government price-controlled supermarkets, where people queue for hours, often to find they've arrived too late. In fact, in Nicaragua, shopping has become nearly a full-time job. Here they begin queuing at 5 a.m. The doors open at 9. I come every day to buy a piece of meat to feed my family. When you are poor, you can't afford to pay black market prices. The lines don't end outside. You queue for your allotted quota of meat, for the vegetables. It's not that there's nothing to buy, it's just that you can't always buy what you want. Faced with mounting popular discontent, the government is clearly worried and has introduced sweeping measures to control distribution and wipe out speculators. But the authorities admit the black market is only the symptom, not the disease. The war against US-backed counter-revolutionaries is eating away at Nicaragua's already undernourished economy. Here in northern Ocotal, the Contras destroyed a major grain silo, while the people try to salvage what they can. Rebel attacks against key economic targets have cost over $200 million, more than 40% of this year's export earnings. More and more is being pumped into defense. So far, a quarter of the annual budget, and the figure is expected to increase. Mines planted with the help of the American CIA nearly paralyzed traffic this year in the nation's main port, Corinto. Nicaragua imports twice what it exports. But most of what's coming in these days isn't bought. It's donated by sympathetic Western and Eastern Bloc countries. It's hoped these 10,000 tons of wheat donated by France will see the country through till Christmas. Nicaragua is broke. Foreign exchange from this year's exports, bought and paid for in advance, was spent as of February. And the crisis, according to Interior Commerce Minister Dionisio Marenco, is only beginning.
If there is no donations, there is no bread. Everyone is conscious that if international solidarity stops, at that moment, we stop eating bread.
Marenco puts the ultimate blame on the Reagan administration, which, apart from slashing Nicaragua's trade quotas and blocking most international credits, finances the counter-revolutionaries. But the leftist government admits the growing shortages and soaring prices pose nearly as big a threat to the Sandinista revolution as the US-backed Contras. As the war escalates, Nicaraguans are being asked to tighten their belts. For just how long they'll be willing to make sacrifices and continue supporting the revolution is what many Sandinistas are asking themselves. In Managua, Lucia Newman reporting for 11 a.m.
And next on 11 a.m, John McEnroe takes his third Wimbledon singles title.
Who's to pay?
Hi, Mum. Hi, Auntie Mary.
It's the terrible twins. Too true. When it comes to wash days, I've got double trouble. Double trouble? Yes, I've got to get this ground-in dirt out of John's clothes and leave Jenny's nice and soft. Oh, if only one product could do both. New Fab 2 can. New Fab 2? Yes, it cleans and softens in one.
Introducing new Fab 2, heavy-duty detergent plus full-strength fabric softener built right in. New Fab 2 cleans and softens in one.
I wouldn't have believed it. Fab 2 really does work. Everything's so clean. It even got the ground-in dirt out of the knees of John's pants.
And Jenny's clothes are so nice and soft.
And my towels feel so soft and fluffy.
The Fab 2.
No more double trouble on wash day now.
You must be joking.
New Fab 2, heavy-duty detergent plus full-strength fabric softener built right in. New Fab 2 cleans and softens in one.
Fabulous clean, fabulous soft.
I'm sick of veggies. Veggies every day. Carrots with the roast, beans and peas with the steak, sprouts with the meatloaf. I said to my wife, I'm sick of veggies. So she served a new, rich sauce continental savory pasta and the new improved, bright flavor continental savory rice. Mamma mia, I like it so much, I get rid of the veggies. Savory pasta and the savory rice. That's a great continental idea.
Dandruff. If you've got it, you want to be free of it. To be free of dandruff, use Free and Lovely every time you wash your hair. It's the most trusted anti-dandruff foam. There's Free and Lovely Normal and Free and Lovely Oil Free.
And now there's new Free and Lovely Conditioner, especially formulated for anti-dandruff foam.
The complete hair care system for soft, bouncing, beautiful hair. Free and Lovely Foam and Conditioner. It's your deadly weapon against dandruff.
Relieve sinus pain with Sinutab. Sinutab quickly relieves the pain of sinus, clears congestion, gives faster relief. Sinutab, fast relief from sinus pain.
John McEnroe made surprisingly light work of Jimmy Connors to win his third Wimbledon crown in straight sets during the night. It was one of the most one-sided contests in a Wimbledon final since Connors downed Ken Rosewall in straight sets in 1974. From London, Paul White reports.
Like Chris Lloyd yesterday, Jimmy Connors was the sentimental favourite on centre court today. But being popular proved no help, as Connors was overwhelmed by McEnroe's brilliance. Connors' first service game was broken, and he was then left stunned by McEnroe's serve.
(30-15).
The first set took only 21 minutes. Of the first 11 games, McEnroe won 10.
Game first set, McEnroe.
The determination which had carried Connors this far seemed to melt away as the temperature passed the century mark. At times it seemed McEnroe could beat his old rival lying down. And even the luck went the champion's way. McEnroe took the second set with his third net cord.
Game second set, McEnroe.
By this stage, the crowd were cheering Connors when he won a point, as McEnroe's serve became unplayable. After an hour and 20 minutes, Connors was broken yet again to lose 6-1, 6-1, 6-2. This year's Wimbledon saw the emergence of a new John McEnroe. His behaviour was perfect, and he showed a newfound respect for tradition. After the match, he said that restraint had helped him play his best ever tennis. Now, with his third Wimbledon title, he predicted he could win 4 or 5 more. But he said tomorrow's champions will be even better than him.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen for a while, but that's rivalries. That makes things interesting to have a young kid come up. You know, a guy like Cash, he's got the potential to come and be a really good player. I mean, he is already a good player, but he's got a chance to be a great player. And that's what makes it interesting. You know, I've gone through rivalries, you know, with Borg and Connors and Lendl, and I hope that, you know, I can have one with a couple other players, because that means that I've been around for a while and that I've had a lot of great matches with, you know, various players.
An Australian featured in the next match on centre court. Wendy Turnbull and Britain's John Lloyd beat Kathy Jordan and Steve Denton in the final of the mixed doubles. And if Pat Cash isn't one of tomorrow's Wimbledon champions, then maybe an 18-year-old from Queensland will one day take John McEnroe's title. Mark Kratzmann today beat the South African boy Stefan Kruger to take the boys' singles championship.
Paul White in London. The Australian track and field and swimming teams have been in Los Angeles only a week, and already their coaches are thinking of ways to relieve the boredom. To break up their training in the next 3 weeks before the Olympics begin, they'll be going on shopping and sightseeing trips and dropping in on other sports meetings. One young Queensland swimmer, though, looks as if he'll remain a bundle of nervous energy right up until his event.
I'm going to give it 110%, you know. No matter what I do, I know that I've worked as hard as I can.
Justin Lemberg of Brisbane is 17 years old. Like so many members of the Australian Olympic swimming team, the long-distance freestyle specialists' everyday activities for the past 2 years have been restricted by the desire to bring a gold pendant back from the Los Angeles Games.
There's a strong desire to win, but he keeps saying, don't put any pressure on me, you know. But there's a real hunger. He's got the hunger all right.
Justin is very close to Australian assistant coach Laurie Lawrence. Americans George DiCarlo and John Meineken may be swimming a shade faster than Justin at the moment, says Laurie, but he adds the Americans' times have already peaked. Justin's best, he says, won't come until Los Angeles.
He's totally prepared for the Olympics, to race at the Olympics. He can stand up behind the block and say, let's go.
Midget Buster!
I think that I can swim faster than what I have swum, and it just depends on whether I sort of can handle the pressure of the Olympics or whether I can't, sort of thing.
But according to Laurie Lawrence, Justin's biggest problem could be his age. His older rivals for the gold in Los Angeles have simply swum more of the big races.
Well, naturally, you're going to be nervous. I reckon he'll go to the toilet half a dozen times on the day of the race, but that won't stop him from really flying.
Greg Hoy reporting. More sport. 1982 world champion Keke Rosberg has won a controversial Dallas Grand Prix after drivers had threatened not to race because of the condition of the track. Championship leader Alain Prost was one of the many drivers who dropped out in the blistering heat. René Arnoux was second and Elio De Angelis third.
Despite some problems with lifting asphalt on the track, the inaugural Dallas Grand Prix began on time. Nigel Mansell of Great Britain won the start, despite getting slightly sideways in the first 20 metres. He made the most of pole position to lead the field through the early laps. Fellow Briton Derek Warwick spun off the track and out of the race, trying to wrest the lead from Mansell on the 5th lap. Mansell drove the race of his life, but was unable to stop Keke Rosberg slipping past after a desperate and lengthy battle. Rosberg then looked to have the run of the race, and with the attrition rate still high, he was running out of rivals. But he hadn't counted on Alain Prost, who pushed his number 7 McLaren to the lead and held it until lap 56. He tried to judge his fuel consumption a little too finely and ran out of juice with 10 laps remaining. He pulled over to the side of the track, jumped out and muttered something in French that it's just as well we couldn't hear or understand. That gave Rosberg the lead again, and with still more cars, including Niki Lauda's, retiring in the searing heat, the Finn was able to take the checkered flag for the first time since the Monte Carlo Grand Prix in May last year. Nigel Mansell had slipped back to 5th and run out of petrol just a few metres from the finish. He tried to push his Lotus over the line but collapsed with heat exhaustion. With the temperature hovering around 46 degrees Celsius on the track, it was no wonder. Steve Rebillard reporting for 11 AM.
Superhuman try. Look, we've just decided. Here's Ross with the News Extra.
We have to. Thanks, Vincent. Firemen and harbour workers at Newcastle in New South Wales have spent the morning unloading smouldering cargo from a Hong Kong-registered ship that caught fire yesterday morning. 2 crewmen from the 38,000-tonne Falcon Arrow were injured while trying to fight the fire yesterday.
Firemen spent all night keeping watch on the smouldering mess of newsprint and paper pulp. They poured tons of foam over the cargo yesterday, and this morning harbour workers joined firemen to empty the hold that caught fire. A crane was used to lift the paper to the wharves. Firemen then checked the soggy cargo to make sure it was no longer in danger of burning. At one stage yesterday, the fuel tanks of the Falcon Arrow were in danger of exploding, but firemen quickly shifted the fuel away from the blaze. 2 crewmen were injured yesterday. One man was treated for smoke inhalation and the second was cut by glass. Harbour authorities still won't say what caused the fire. Trevor Borman for 11 a.m.
There's been a lull in the Gulf War between Iran and Iraq, but it may well be the lull before the storm, as Baghdad continues to prepare a long-expected Tehran ground offensive. Paul Miller reports from Basra, the Iraqi town directly in the path of the Iranian attack.
Basra is a city of sandbags. One of the main targets of the Gulf War, it's been shelled regularly since 1980. The streets with the bars and casinos seem to be the favorite targets of the Iranian fundamentalist gunners, but most parts of the city have been hit. The shelling stopped 3 weeks ago when Iran and Iraq agreed not to fire on civilian areas. But the sandbagging goes on. The Iranians have moved troops into position for an attack on the Basra area. The Iraqis have indicated they'll use any means necessary to defend Basra and the surrounding territory, perhaps including chemical weapons. Military officers would not rule out that possibility. Basra's military governor says this is a city of 1 million fighters, with every house a fort to defend Iraq. In this household, Fawzia Khadoun and the other women receive military training. Fawzia has been learning how to fire a Kalashnikov and a grenade launcher. Troops guard the main buildings and the Shatt al-Arab waterway, which leads to the Gulf. It's the waterway and Basra's port that make the city so strategically important. The port has been closed for 4 years because of the fighting. Ships lie rusting in the waterway. When the war is over, this will be a major port again, one the Iranians would love to have, one the Iraqis must hold on to.
Australia's Greg Norman has lost his second playoff in the space of a month, this time to American Tom Watson in the $400,000 Western Open in Illinois. Last month, Norman lost the playoff for the US Open title to Fuzzy Zoeller. On this occasion, he was beaten on the final hole of a 3-hole playoff.
The final round of the Western Open saw some just trying to survive, like Rex Caldwell out of the water. Now to the contenders. This is Tom Watson, who had a 70 on the final day. On the 12th hole, if he makes this putt, he goes to 8 under par. He already had the lead. This putt gave him some cushion. Greg Norman had stood 3 strokes back at the time, but he birdied 12 and 13, and then here on 15. He has a chance to get within a stroke of Watson. Greg Norman charges hard to go 7 under par. Then on the 16th hole, Norman in position again for a birdie. This time it would give him a share of the lead. This man was hot with the putter, sending it right in. He finished tied with Watson at 8 under par after a 71. We switch now to the 3rd hole of sudden death. Watson, with this birdie putt, could wrap it up, and there's no doubt about it. Tom Watson downs Greg Norman on the 3rd hole of sudden death to take the Western Open title.
He might get another big one soon. That's the News Extra, Vincent.
Bit unlucky, Ross, hasn't he? You're with 11 a.m. We'll be back with more after this break.
What Flying High was to the aircraft industry, this movie is to the law. There are judges who become plate-throwing maniacs, maniacs who become lawyers, and a lot of people who become very emotional. If you loved Perry Mason, forget it. If you love a good laugh, don't miss And Justice for All, starring Al Pacino, tonight 8:30 on 7.
Just when you thought Omo had gone about as far as it could go, it takes another step beyond. Introducing new Omo with built-in fabric softener. It's a complete breakthrough in washing powders. Omo's unbeatable cleaning and brightening ability, plus a new fabric softener for a softness no other powder can beat. It costs no more, it simply does more. Cleans, brightens and softens. Now Omo does it all.
G'day, trendsetters. Rodney Rood here. You know what I hate? You know what I hate? I hate it when somebody gives me a Big Ben pie and they keep the wrapper. You know why I hate that? Because the wrapper's the way you win Big Ben big bucks, yeah?
Buy one of the 7 kinds of Big Ben pies and play Big Ben big bucks. Win instantly $10, $100 or $500 and you could collect and win again the big $10,000 first prize.
You know what else I hate? Oh, I hate it when you buy 2 Big Ben pies. You give one of them to your mate and he wins the $500. I hate that, yeah! Play Big Ben big bucks today!
Got a nasty cough?
Sure have. Irritates my throat. I cough even more.
How about a little peace and quiet? Now, just have a look at this.
That's why you're here.
It's called Vicks Viscoat. Got an exclusive coating action so you cough less right away. And Viscoat helps stop you coughing for hours. Works fast, doesn't it? Vicks Viscoat gives you fast cough relief that lasts.
Peace and quiet, too.
That other cheese slice isn't half as good, so choose the one you know you should. Kraft Singles every single time. That other cheese slice won't pass the test, so stay with the one that tastes the best. Kraft Singles every single time.
No other slice has a cheesier taste. This family favorite sets the pace.
Kraft Singles every single time.
A report by a team of independent scientists has cleared the French nuclear test site at Mururoa Atoll of posing any immediate environmental threat to the southwest Pacific. But it leaves the future unclear, raising the possibility of what it describes as insignificant radiation leaks in the next 500 to 1,000 years.
The tiny coral atoll of Mururoa, technically part of France, but geographically in the southwest Pacific. Mururoa is essential to the French government's nuclear weapons program, but when French President Francois Mitterrand swept to power, he promised the testing on Mururoa, which led to a protest boycott of French goods in Australia in the 1970s, would stop. It didn't, and the French continue to be touchy about their nuclear activities, taking swift action against this Greenpeace boat, which got too close. The nations of the Southwest Pacific protested vigorously at the tests, and there were claims that the atoll was breaking up. Radioactivity from the underground tests was leaking into the ocean, and the number of cases of cancer in surrounding islands was on the increase. Eventually, the French conceded a point. They allowed a joint Australian, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea team of scientists to visit the atoll. But though the French allowed the visit, they were less than helpful. The scientists were subjected to what they described as a snow job.
When we got to Mururoa, the intention was to submit us to a talk fest. We, in fact, decided after a day that this just wasn't good enough, and as we were there to verify, we wanted to see things and to do things rather than to be lectured at. And in fact, in open session, we complained about this, and the French took that on board and allowed us to have much more freedom than they had planned as presumably what was their first position.
This allowed Dr. Davies and the other members of the scientific mission to reach firm conclusions about the environmental effects of the nuclear weapons testing program.
Clearly, we would have liked access to much more information if it had been possible, but what that would have done would, I think, have confirmed the conclusions which we've already come to.
And those conclusions? There is no leakage of radioactive material from Mururoa. Radiation levels in the French Polynesian area of the Pacific are lower than the world average. But the report warns radioactive leaks from Mururoa may be a problem in the next 500 to 1,000 years, though Dr. Davies doesn't see them as a major problem.
On the basis of the information that we have had available to us, in the short term, there appears no cause for concern. In the long term, that is in time spans greater than 500 years, there is some cause for concern. Nuclear testing at Mururoa has had an effect on the structural integrity of the limestones which form the upper part of the atoll. It's possible for leakage to be occurring from the underground test sites in the time space greater than 500 years hence.
How high would those levels of radioactivity be?
I think that it's difficult for us to say so, but on the basis of the assumptions that we've had to make, probably radiologically insignificant.
Nuclear scientist Mr. Des Davey from the Australian Atomic Energy Commission agrees. And he stands by the conclusions of the report. He says they're not changed by the fact that the French restricted the mission's activities.
But one can understand why the French didn't, for military reasons, want us to sample that lagoon.
What were those military reasons, in your opinion?
Essentially, if we had carried out an extensive sampling program, there is a chance that we could have found out information on the material they used in their weapons, both in terms of the fissionable material of plutonium and also in terms of the bomb casing.
It's the first time the French or any other nuclear power have allowed scientists from another nation to visit an atomic weapons test site. And that, of course, pleases the federal government that wants to see a total ban on all nuclear weapons tests. Verification of such a total test ban treaty would include the type of visits the two Australian scientists made to Mururoa. Andrew Fowler for 11 AM.
And this late report just in, 6-month-old Paul McKee is alive and well after an 11-hour liver transplant operation in Los Angeles. Doctors say Paul's liver is functioning and that he's awake and kicking. They're cautiously optimistic and seem confident that he'll pull through. We'll be back with more of 11 AM after this.
Meet the old me, Ray Pearce. When I walked into a Jenny Craig weight loss centre a short while back, I was hopelessly overweight and I felt miserable. At Jenny Craig, they worked out a personalised computer weight loss program for me. And in just 9 weeks, I've lost nearly 2 stone. I feel terrific and I'm still losing weight. It's so simple. And with the Jenny Craig easy-to-follow program, I know not only will I soon reach my goal weight, but I'll be able to maintain that weight too. Look, why be a prisoner in an overweight body? Free yourself like I did, the Jenny Craig way.
Isn't it time you joined Ray and did something about your weight problem once and for all?
Grab a pen and note your nearest Jenny Craig Weight Loss Centre, because right now Jenny's offering you the chance to try her easy calorie-controlled weight loss program for just $49. That's right, $49. To take advantage of this fantastic offer from Australia's leaders in weight loss, phone the Jenny Craig Weight Loss Centre nearest you now.
The difference is visible. The difference is visible. Visible difference from Elizabeth Arden penetrates moisture 20 cell layers deep, almost to where new skin is born. And in just 14 to 21 days, a dramatic change will take place in your face. The difference is visible. Only Elizabeth Arden can call her face cream Visible Difference.
Inquire about the special offer at all Grace Brothers stores.
Budget Specs bargain prices have changed the face of spectacle service. With their $27 price and finest quality lenses, including Zeiss, Hoya, and Wiseman. 2 pair for $50, complete. A wide choice of frames and prices, 2 to 3 hour service for most single vision lenses. Check out our quality because nobody beats the combination of Budget Specs quality and prices.
Enjoy the freedom of regularity with the gentle laxative action of natural Bakunas. Easy to prepare, you drink it just before going to bed. There's Bakunas tea and instant tea and Bakunas chocolate from your chemist or health food store.
One of America's now, I'm sorry, what are we doing? Are we going with the American Dam story or Ken Begg? We're going with Ken Begg. The New South Wales Premier and ALP National President Neville Wran made a strong plea for unity to delegates to the party's national conference in Canberra today. But as Ken Begg reports, it wasn't a smooth start.
It was hardly a riveting, or for that matter, promising start. Labor's much-heralded national conference began with a dispute over credentials. Delegates had to decide whether ACT representative Mrs. Joan Taggart, a pro-uranium delegate, had the right to attend the conference. The Canberra branch, which is largely opposed to uranium mining, says she doesn't. But Labor's national executive claims she does because of certain voting inconsistencies in the Canberra branch. The issue isn't one to spill too much blood, but Party President Neville Wran reminded delegates this morning in his opening address of what an undisciplined national conference stood to lose for a Labor Party now enjoying power in 4 states and Canberra.
It's especially important, delegates,
that we resist pressures to respond to the extremism of sections of our adversaries with extremism. That's true for the conduct of our affairs and the handling of specific issues at the level of government. It's true for the general conduct of the Labor Party and the Labor movement. And it's true for the conduct of our own affairs at this conference as we debate and decide the serious matters now before us. And let us remember at all times that the splendid and almost unprecedented position of power and responsibility to which our party has been brought by dedicated leadership, the steadfastness of our supporters, and the trust given to us by the millions of plain Australians now means that everything on the agenda at this National Labor Conference, in a deep and real sense, is thereby placed on the agenda of the Australian nation. That consideration alone must place our conduct on a higher plane than even those successful conferences of 1981 and 1982, and certainly above any considerations of private malice or personal self-indulgence.
Neville Rand's plea for unity struck a responsive chord inside, but not so in the streets outside, where East Timorese staged yet another demonstration in support of Labor's hardline policy toward the Indonesian takeover. East Timor is still the most uncertain issue facing Labor this week. Foreign Minister Bill Hayden is hoping that conference will adopt a softer line, which, while condemning Indonesia's military occupation, will acknowledge, tacitly at least, that there's little Labor can do about it now. Bill Hayden's centre-left faction is apparently starting to irritate some of Labor's power brokers. Its high profile over uranium and Indonesia, its newfound strength and discipline as a voting bloc, promises to project it as a major force at conference this week. And that strength has apparently irritated the Prime Minister and some of his supporters. Not that they can complain all that much, as the Prime Minister, either by design or intent, has let the others do the running for him. Ken Begg in Canberra for 11 a.m.
Our chief political correspondent. Conservation and the survival of beavers may become academic questions if scientists don't find the answer to a more serious problem, the death of forests. The phenomenon is spreading to many industrial nations, and if it's not stopped soon, you may not be able to see the forests or the trees.
It was just 5 years ago that the people of West Germany began to notice that their legendary Black Forest was dying. Today, 34% of all the forest land in Germany is diseased or dying, and Das Waldsterben, the death of the forest, has quickly become an urgent national issue. And Germany isn't the only country scrambling to find out why forests are dying so quickly. This is the summit of Mount Mitchell in North Carolina. It's the highest point east of the Mississippi. Recently, the mysterious process that has devastated the forests of Germany has started here, and a team of scientists has converged on the area to try and find out why.
What we did in this particular area was to look for successful reproduction of the Fraser fir and the red spruce. And what we found was greatly distressing to us.
Dr. Robert Brook found that here on Mount Mitchell, as in Germany, trees are not reproducing. Their foliage is just dropping away. Huge patches of trees are dead. It appears to Brook that these particular trees are dying because they're growing at this high elevation, high enough to comb airborne pollutants out of clouds as they pass by. He feels it's a problem more complicated and perhaps much more dangerous than the widely discussed acid rain.
Many people would like to simply pin a cause and effect on a single problem, such as simply acid rain. I don't believe that we can look at this problem that simplistically.
In their search for answers, researchers are staking out sample plots all over Mount Mitchell, measuring trees.
DBH is 35.6.
Taking core samples. Again and again, what they find is alarming.
Well, it was growing real well for, looks like, about the first 50 years. And there's a real sharp break with a rapid, dramatic reduction in growth.
Soil analysis has shown that the level of lead on this remote mountaintop is about the same as alongside the New Jersey Turnpike. Camel's Hump in Vermont, another peak where forest death has suddenly taken a heavy toll. In all, the phenomenon has now shown up in 15 states, all of them in the path of drifting pollution. Dr. Hubert Vogelman is a botanist at the University of Vermont.
And I think there's a limit to what the environment can take, and we may well be seeing the beginning of a rather wide-scale calamity that's unfolding. We do not have proof as to what is causing this, but we do know it is not disease, it is not an insect, it's not climatic, it is not a part of the normal cycle of these forests. This is very real, and it's very dramatic, and it's getting worse.
Those studying forest deaths say it appears that industrial nations have cooked up a chemical stew that's just become too much for these woodlands. Their guess is that in Germany, the United States, and several other countries, some key ecological line has been crossed in the last few years, and the race is on to see if the process can be stopped.
And don't believe it's too far away and will never happen here. It's happening, and it's happening right here, right now. Ross will be back with the final news headlines after this break.
I am your Evita.
She was the most famous woman in the world, worshipped by millions, living in staggering luxury.
Take the money. Not everyone can be bought.
Yet what was the truth behind the legend?
Tell Mama I've gone to Buenos Aires.
An orphan from the slums who learned the ways of the world.
Who is he?
Peron.
Married.
Widower. Evita the schemer.
If you do what I say, no man in Argentina would touch you.
Evita the fighter.
No, don't arrest him.
Evita the ruthless politician.
Senor, I have done nothing.
Who'd stoop to anything.
Perfect.
Now 7 brings you one of the television events of '84, a giant new miniseries starring Faye Dunaway as Evita, on 2 big nights, Wednesday and Thursday, 8:30, 7.
It's true, those nameless soap pads do save you a few cents. But what about all the extra time and effort they cost you at the sink? When it comes to performance, it pays to buy the best. Big Boy soap pads. Because Big Boy not only has more soap than the nameless brands, but better soap right into the pad, which means Big Boy cleans quicker and lasts longer. So when you think what else you can do with your time, it's worth buying the fast workers, Big Boy soap pads.
Budget Specs bargain prices have changed the face of spectacle service. With their $27 price and finest quality lenses, including Zeiss, Hoya, and Wiseman. 2 pair for $50, complete. A wide choice of frames and prices, 2 to 3 hour service for most single vision lenses. Check out our quality because nobody beats the combination of Budget Specs quality and prices.
Here's your vitamins, sweetheart.
Oh, thanks. Where?
There.
That's fruit juice. Where's my capsule?
Forget the capsule, darling. Your vitamins are in there. In fact, 5 vitamins with the juices of 10 fruits.
Really? Oh, Vi-10.
Go on. You'll love it.
New Vi-10. The good health of 5 essential vitamins with the added natural goodness of 10 carefully selected fruits.
Delicious. If that's my vitamins, you can give it to me every day.
So quick, so easy, and real beef gusto. Lego's delicioso spaghetti sauce with beef on Lego's pasta. Auténtico.
Legos Auténtico.
Now, the final news this morning. 6-month-old Paul McKee of Queensland is reported to be in a critical but stable condition after an 11-hour liver transplant operation in Los Angeles. Doctors say Paul's new liver is functioning and are cautiously optimistic about his condition. A 35-year-old man, also in the United States, had undergone heart transplant surgery for the 2nd time in less than 12 hours. Fred Davis received his first heart during a 2.5-hour operation yesterday at the University Hospital in Augusta, Georgia. Within hours, Davis' blood pressure dropped to a dangerously low level, and he was immediately returned to the operating room, where doctors found his new heart wasn't functioning properly. He remained in the operating room while hospital officials searched for another acceptable heart donor. The search was successful, and he was then given his 2nd transplant. Early this morning, Davis was taken off the heart-lung machine, which sustained him during the 2nd operation. The hospital says he's doing as well as can be expected. And teenage mother Karen Scoble, who received a new heart at Sydney St Vincent's Hospital on Thursday, is now able to do moderate exercise. The hospital describes Karen's condition as most satisfactory. Members of her family are now allowed to visit her individually. The 16-year-old from Leongatha, 100 kilometres northeast of Melbourne, gave birth to a daughter 6 weeks ago before doctors discovered she suffered from the disease cardiomyopathy. New South Wales Premier and ALP National President Neville Wran has warned delegates to the party's national conference not to throw away Labor's electoral success. In a strongly worded opening address to the conference in Canberra, Mr Wran said it was important delegates rise above private malice or self-indulgence and resist extremism. He said the party's rank and file wants stable and moderate government under leadership they know, respect and trust. Mr Wran's remarks were seen as a warning to the party's left wing, which has foreshadowed amendments on the economy, East Timor, uranium and American bases, which could embarrass the Hawke government. And that's the final news this morning. Now, a final look at the weather. Here once again is Mike.
Thanks, Ross, and let's start with Brisbane. It's simple up there today, fairly sunny under the influence of that high pressure system, a top of 24 degrees, but not such a pleasant picture further south. In Sydney, certainly very cloudy, some rain at times. There's been some this morning, a chance of some more this afternoon ahead of winds shifting around to the west and southwest with the passage of that change. Talking of winds, they're quite strong down to the south in both Melbourne and Adelaide. 13 degrees the top there, some showers, possible hail as well in South Australia with the cold air aloft in the upper atmosphere there along with the change. In Canberra, also cloudy and a top of 10. Away from our viewing centres today, also mainly fine. 13 the top for Hobart, 17 across in Perth, 29 for Darwin, 22 for Alice Springs, and gradually in the next 24 hours, a wind shift around to the west and southwest right across the southeastern part of the continent, bringing some cooler air, but at least for Sydney tomorrow, back to clearer skies. That's the weather. Here's Vincent.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Ross. And before we go, in 7 National News tonight, a full report on the first day of the critical ALP National Conference, and the latest, of course, on the condition of the Queensland baby Paul McKee after his liver transplant in Los Angeles. That's 7 National News at 6 in Canberra and Brisbane, 6:30 in Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney, where it's presented by Ross Simons. Good morning from 11 a.m. Good morning to you, Ross.
11 a.m. with Vincent Smith, a 7 National News presentation.
What's the latest betting information? 7 Text TAB service tells you instantly.
What do you mean he's in jail? My lawyer's in jail? My client. I promise I'll get you out. My client.
What Flying High did for the airline industry.
Hired.
What the Blues Brothers were to road safety.
He's innocent. Crucify him.
This movie is to the law.
Judge coming through!
Some of them are plate-throwing lunatics.
We're not gonna make it back! I know it!
Some are just plain out of their tree. And some occasionally get a little upset. Al Pacino in one of the top movie premieres of the year, and Justice for All. You'll love it tonight, 8:30 on 7.
We're looking for fun-loving contestants to play the Love Game, Channel 7's great new television dating game show. If you're single, aged between 18 and 30, and prepared to travel overseas, this is your big chance. Give us a call on 858-7777 right now. We're holding special auditions tomorrow night at our Epping studios. Don't miss out. Ring 858-7777 right now and be in the Love Game.
What is it? Lots of noodles. But what's it called? Lots of noodles. Oh.
It's true, it's Lots of Noodles cuppa soup from Continental in 3 delicious varieties.
Nobody makes soup in a cup like Continental cuppa soup. What's yours, Dad?
Beef.
Yeah, but what's it called? Lots of noodles. Oh.
That's a great Continental idea.
Minute by minute, we're getting closer to a brighter, better Waltons. Even now, big changes are underway. But first, there are entire warehouses full of merchandise that must be emptied. So it's time for a giant store-wide clear-out, when every Walton store is packed with incredible bargains in every department. From Manchester to floor coverings, furniture to sporting goods, the stock must go. There are thousands of sensational bargains at Walton's giant store-wide clear-out. But hurry, time is running out.
Relieve sinus pain with Sinutab. Sinutab quickly relieves the pain of sinus, clears congestion, gives faster relief. Sinutab, fast relief from sinus pain.
This is Bert Smith. For the past 30 summers, Bert has collected honey from his hives for the Capilano Honey Company. From Alum Rock, Bert's honey is taken by truck to Capilano. There, along with honey from hundreds of other hives, Bert's honey is simply strained, nothing added, nothing taken
Buy
away.
them a present. How about no fires all year?
Great idea, but we'll need the children to help us.
Right, and they can start by getting this free fire safety kit from your local fire station.
Or any St George Building Society branch. And remember, when there's any sign of fire...
Go, dial triple O!
We do more than solve the puzzle of serving a nutritious family breakfast.
Carrot cake and harvest pudding, almond shortbread, apricot Bix, carob cookies.
Wheat Bix can be a cook and eat Bix.
Hey, welcome back. If I said to you that plants and people really do have something in common, would you believe me? Well, Cecilia's here to prove that it really is true.
Most living creatures have to go through a stage of incubation, but were you aware that even living plants have to go through a period of incubation? And behind me is one huge incubator for plants. In here, sprinklers come on automatically about every 10 minutes in short bursts. The sprinklers come on to keep the air moist for the most vital stage of the plant's growth, which is when they form their first roots. There's actually a very simple, but it's a sensitive system that controls the sprinklers. It works on the principle that electricity travels through water. So when this paper is wet, there's a small electric current travelling between these two electrodes. Now, if the air becomes dry, the paper dries out and the current is broken. That's the signal for the sprinklers to turn on. Talk about being pampered, this floor is actually heated. There's a system of electric wiring running under the concrete, heating the floor. This encourages the root growth of the seedlings. Eventually the seedlings come out of the incubator and are left in the shade house. The shade house simply protects them from the real heat of the sun as they're still developing root. During these few weeks in the shade, they grow enough roots, and now they're ready to be potted. A special soil mix is prepared, a gourmet delight as far as the plants are concerned. There's all sorts of lovely ingredients, fertilizers, ash, decomposed sawdust, food plants can't resist. And this is the Wonder Woman that pots plants at 5,000 a day. This is probably right. Just a bit there, and a bit there, and a bit there, and a bit there. What do you think? Well, not exactly, but she's had 8 years' experience. Well, this is the last bunch for the day. Hey! Hang on a sec! I don't want to be playing!
Oh, poor old Cecilia. Well, I'm here to tell you that she did actually come back safely after that story. But for those of you who would like to have a plant in your room or somewhere in your house that will stay alive and be healthy, we have a special guest today. It's Jenny Vincent, who's a horticulturalist.
Oh, yeah.
Jenny studies plants, and we just wanted to find out the best way of keeping a plant healthy and alive. Now, can you take a little plant like this from your garden and put it in a pot and keep it in your room?
You can. You find that maybe your mother's plants are dropping seeds onto the ground and you find that the little plants are coming up. You can take it from the garden, but you have to be very careful about how you do it, you know, as far as disturbing the roots as they come, because they're very delicate, they're very small, they need a lot of care. You can get a bag of potting mix, because that's the best, because it's got a lot of drainage in it. That's the one most important thing to do when you're potting plants, is to get lots of drainage.
When they're in a little pot like that, they can only stay for a while, can't they, before you have to increase the size?
That's right, because the roots are growing. They're a living thing. They're growing all the time. They need a lot of room, as, you know, we do. As we grow, we need a lot of room too.
Perhaps you could show us how you repot a plant.
Certainly. I've got a pot here. First thing you've got to do is to make sure, this is only very small, as you can see the difference. One thing you've got to do is make sure you've got soil on the bottom. So, I've got a little bit of soil here. floor falls through. Doesn't matter. So we need
Maybe
a fair
if you
bit.
put some plastic or something. We'll do it outside where it won't matter.
That's the best thing, not to do on the carpet.
How often will the plants need to be repotted in different sizes?
It probably depends on the plant. Like, all plants grow differently. Your natives are very... Zoras are a medium sort of growth, and then you've got camellias and azaleas grow very slowly.
Flowers,
But you
right.
have to be careful how you get them. If you get them in, you have to be careful as you transplant them. So the best thing to do is turn it over, give it a little tap, and the plant will come out, as you can see it there, with all the little roots coming through.
They're all
See it?
wrapped around,
yeah,
aren't they?
because they're very, very, very... So all you do to the nice free mix, so stand it up there.
You don't have to loosen the roots at all?
No, no, it's best not to. Like, roots will find their way through whatever you put them in, you know, whatever soil you put them into, they'll find their way without any worries. So just pack it in around it like that.
Right. Does it worry the plants at first when they're...
Way, that's very important.
And then just let it sit for a while?
That's right, yeah.
All right, and if you're really after it carefully, eventually it might grow into a beautiful specimen like that. How long would that have taken to grow?
That's probably about 2 years old, 1.5 to 2 years old, that one there.
Well, lovely. Well, good luck with your gardening. I hope it works out well for you. Jenny, thanks very much for coming up today.
sorry.
And we'll take a break and be...
Saturday, explore the edge of the unknown, the strange and the mysterious in a brand new supernatural special destined to challenge your senses.
To me, it's a game now. After 10 years of controversy, there must be something to it.
See the metal-bending psychic powers of Uri Geller. Investigate faith healers, castle ghosts, those who feel UFOs, and extra